guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the last day of palette week. I hope that you guys have been enjoying the palette content on my channel over the course of the last week, and certainly if you have any ideas or content that you would like me to do the next palette week that I do, I usually like to do a palette week every 3 months or so. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you would like to see. I love getting your guys' ideas or inspiration, so if you have any ideas, definitely leave them for me in the comment box down below. But today we're going to be wrapping up palette week with one of my favorite videos to film. It is the palette a day for, I think I have 28 looks to share with you guys today. I actually usually accumulate these over the course of 3 months because I do typically work 5 days a week, and we all know I do my neutral everyday wear to work looks when I'm going to work, but on days that I have off or on filming days, etc., which would also be my days off, I am typically trying to be a little bit more creative, and I've definitely been playing around with color a little bit more. You guys will see throughout the course of the looks that I'm going to share with you today, I've been playing around a lot with blues and purples lately, and then, you know, some greens here and there. But if you guys are interested in seeing the looks that I have created, stay tuned. First, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do post a minimum of 4 times a week, so if that's something that interests you, then don't forget to subscribe before moving on. But other than that, let's just jump into the video. Alright, you guys, so because I'm trying to get use and love out of my entire makeup collection, typically when I am creating a look, I am usually using a minimum of 2 to 3 eyeshadow palettes. So as I share my looks with you and the palette that I use to create it with, usually it's more than just that palette that I'm creating the look with, but that was like the palette I centered my idea for my look around. I hope this makes sense. So I do think I have somewhere between 28 and 30 looks to share with you. Let's just start with the one that I have on my eyes today, and I went in with the Naked Ultraviolet, the new Naked palette, to create this. And I actually went in, I pretty much exclusively used this palette to create this look, and I used the neutral chunk of this. I actually have to work later today, which is really ironic. Normally I never film on days that I work. So I went for a more neutral look. This was the first time I've used this palette thus far, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit, and by a little bit, I was a lot disappointed in this. I feel like I finally got it to build up to something that, like, I don't mind, but I mean, I guess this is part of the Naked line, so maybe they don't mean for the pigmentation to be 100% there, but I found these to be not that pigmented. I really struggled to build this color up right here. I thought that this would have a lot more pigmentation. I did use digital to try and deepen this up a little bit, and I just really struggled with this digital shade. And then I was really excited to use this shimmer shade Days. This took so much building up, and then finally I decided to lay a glitter glue down. I wet my brush. I did so much to get that shadow to where it is. I also tried VR a little bit, and this is this is such a sheer wash. I mean, maybe this is supposed to be a lid topper shade, but upon first impression and my first experience with this palette, not that impressed. I'm really excited to play around with the purple piece of the palette, but obviously I'm not going to do that on a day that I'm going to work. Hopefully I'll be more impressed with the purple side of the palette, not that impressed with the neutrals thus far. But this is the look that I created with this palette. Alright, let's jump into looks that I created with my ABH palettes. The ones that I documented were these 5. So I have one with the Sultry, Riviera, ABH Amrezy, Carly, and Norvina. So let's start with the Norvina palette. So I remember when I was creating this look, I feel like I was reaching into the Sultry palette first, actually, and I was just going to do a neutral look. And I used the shade Twig out of the Sultry palette, which used to be a favorite of mine, but it pulled super, super gray. So then I reached into my Norvina palette, and I did a lot with what I remember from this look. Sorry, I'm looking down to like look at the pictures, and I'll also post them right here. But for this look, I used Soul in the crease and tried to deepen it with Volatile and Drama. And then I used Celestial all over the lid, and then I even went in with one of my ABH glitters, and I believe Day 2 is the glitter that I used. I've said this on my channel before, the Norvina is not my favorite of all the ABH palettes. I find a lot of these shimmers in this palette to be a little bit chunky, and then I just don't feel like the mattes work that well together. I feel like they muddy up some. I mean, this look was fine. I remember I wasn't actually that happy with this look. I just wasn't. But nevertheless, that is the look I created with the Norvina palette. Next up, I did have a lot of fun with the ABH Amrezy palette, and the look that I ended up with was nowhere near what I was going for. I remember I found this look on Pinterest that I was like obsessed with and really wanted to recreate, and this turned out to be nothing like it, but I really enjoyed the look that I created here. So I went in with OG in the crease, deepened it up with 1988, and then I went in with Cupcake and Barb on the lid to kind of create that purple effect that you're seeing. And then I went in with Leo and kind of did that along my upper lash line to create a little bit of a blue effect. And I really had fun with this one. This is a palette that I definitely have not shown the love to that I really want to. I feel like I bought this, used it, and then it kind of got pushed to the side. So I definitely want to play around with this. I feel like this kind of reminds me of a summery palette, so these last couple months of summer, this would be a really great time to get some good use out of this. And these like fun pinks, which I normally never reach for, I really enjoy from this palette. So I did have fun creating this look with the Amrezy palette. Next up, we have a pretty neutral look from the Sultry palette. I kind of just went for a gray smoky eye, which is something that I also never really do. So I used Twig and Slate and then just went in with Cyborg all over the lid. I really like Cyborg, and this is a shade that you can definitely manipulate just based on the shades that you're using in your crease or whatever base you lay down. I actually want to swatch this. It's just, when I first got this palette, this was a shade that I kind of, in the pan, definitely really intimidated me because it just looks like such an intense silver foiled shadow. But here it is actually swatched, and it is by far my favorite shade in this palette. I do love this palette for all of the shimmers. I just, even if this palette like only had shimmers, I would love to just, it's such a great palette to reach into for lid topper shades, etc. And I'm so happy I have the Sultry palette. So like I said, a pretty simple one that I created with this one, but I did really enjoy that look. A look that I really enjoyed and actually had a ton of fun creating came out of my Carly Bible palette. So up until this point, I just felt like I hadn't played around with this, like I hadn't learned how to use this palette in a way that was interesting to me, or I had created looks that I felt like were more than just like your average neutral look. So for this look, I was super nervous about this, but I took Chai in the crease, and then I also took this bright red shade in the shade Steve, and then I buffed it out with Bible to kind of like create this like purpley red look. And then I went in with OA and Mandala all over the lid to create the look that you're seeing. Just a really, really pretty purpley pinky sort of look, and I loved this one. I also got a ton of compliments on that one in the YouTube videos that I had filmed while wearing this look, so I really enjoyed that one from the Carly Bible palette, and it definitely inspired me to reach into that one more than I had been. And then finally, you guys, I did have some fun with the Riviera palette. Definitely stepped outside my comfort zone for this one. So this is like a pinky bluey purple look, and to be honest with you guys, I don't even 100% remember everything I used. I know I obviously used the purple shadow from here as well as the pink, and I went super, super, super light-handed with this. And then I used Palermo, oh my gosh, on the lid, and then I also went in with Seychelles for the blue like lower lash line. And I actually really enjoyed this look as well. Normally, always, I struggle to have the patience to blend a look together, but I was actually pretty proud of myself for how this turned out. Trust me, I know I'm no makeup wizard, but for my actual makeup abilities, I was really proud of this look, and this still is not a favorite palette of mine, but it was fun to play around with some color and really step outside my comfort zone. Next up, you guys, I have two looks actually to share with you from my ColourPop Baby Got Peach palette. This is and was going in a project. I had a shade I finally hit pan on, and now it's currently back in my project pan project. So the first look that I'm going to share with you is one that I created using every single matte in this palette, actually with the exception of these two. But I started with Darling in the crease, Darlin. Used Half Baked to make it a little bit more peachy orange. Used this shade right here. Sorry, you guys, I also forgot this palette is out of order, so my shade names are not accurate. So I used this shade, and then this shade to deepen it up. And then I went in with, I think that this one is actually called Ready or Yacht. It's this really high intensity shimmer shade. I really like this one. I think the shimmers throughout this palette are super, super foiled and high intensity. You would really have to buff these out to get a more sheer wash of color, but I really enjoyed the look that I created with this. I can't remember what I had dabbed all over like the center of my lid. Did not love that like darker part of it. Didn't love that piece of it. I feel like I had like screwed up and then I was trying to cover it up. But overall, just using the mattes in this palette and then topping it with one of the shimmers, I just love that look overall. And then a look I created a little bit earlier with this palette, I pretty much did the exact same thing with the mattes. I may have even reached into the Urban Decay Born to Run palette and used that bright orange shade to create the base. But then I actually went in with the pressed glitter all over my lid for this one. And it was a very intense look. I actually did really like this. Super embarrassing. We were getting our floors done and I didn't realize that the guy was gonna be here as early as he was that day. So I like answered the door and let him in, and I had this like just super glam pressed glitter on my lids look, and I was so embarrassed. But I did actually really enjoy the way that this looked out. I liked to do, or I did a really smoky lower lash line with this one too, which I really enjoyed. So overall, I am really impressed with the Baby Got Peach palette, and I've really created a lot of looks that I really enjoyed with this one. Okay, moving right along, I thought I was really gonna like the look that I created with this palette, but the look that I created with the Urban Decay Born to Run made me very aware of some dud shades throughout this palette. So I did like a blue pinky look with this palette, and I used Hellride in the crease, and I did not love the way that this blended out. I felt like it was a little bit patchy, a little bit hard to work with. I also used Wild Heart in the outer V of this to try and blend everything together, and I did not feel like Wild Heart performed that well for me either. I remember in this look I had also gone in with the really hot pink shadow in my Pure Festival palette. It was going in a project pan, and I used that to kind of make it a little bit more of like a hot pink look. And then I went in with Big Sky all over the lid, and I don't know if you guys will be able to tell from the pictures, but Big Sky was like transferring all over onto my upper lash line. Now I did not go in with a glitter glue, and next time I use that shade I definitely will, but I definitely struggled with those three shades from this palette. Now overall, I still love this palette, and this has some faves in terms of shades still in this palette. Like I love Stranded, I love Blaze, I love Ignite, and these are some of my favorite matte neutrally warm tone brown shades in my collection. But I definitely struggled with the look that I created with this. Still outside my comfort zone, but definitely you guys will see that pattern of like pinks, blues, and purples for looks that I was creating. But that is the look that I created with the Urban Decay Born to Run. Quite possibly my favorite look that I did the last 3 months came from my Friendcation palette, and I saw Julia Musicato do this beautiful blue look, which really inspired me to start playing around with blues. So for the look that I created, I used the 3 matte brown shades in the crease and to deepen it up. And then I can't remember, there was, I think I used one of the navy blues or like the teal out of the Subculture palette in the V as well to kind of deepen it up and give it like a little bit of a blue base. And then I tapped a mixture of these two all over the lid to create the look that you're seeing. And then in the inner corner, I went in with, oh, I don't have it in front of me, The Kat Von D Alchemist palette is like my favorite for colorful inner corner highlights. I used the blue to create the inner corner here, which I really felt like made the look pop. And I just, I loved this one. I had so much fun with it. Definitely stepping outside my comfort zone. It was one of the first times that I really played around with blue shadows, and it really made me want to play with blues more. So you guys know I love this palette, and it just kind of broadened my horizons to some of the shades that I had been neglecting in this palette. I definitely had not reached for the blues all that much up until this point, and I just love the look that I created with this one. I missed one of my ABH palettes. I actually did create a look with the Subculture palette. We all know this is a polarizing palette and one that's a little bit difficult to work with, but the look that I created, I went in with Dawn in the crease. And then I used Axis in the outer V really lightly, you guys. I also didn't do the best job at blending this bad boy out. But then I used one of the JD Glow Cosmetics single shadows in Good God all over the lid. And then I went in with Electric kind of in the center. You can see that lime green. And then I want to say I even used Cube in the inner corner. I tried to use as many shadows from this palette as possible. And that is the look that you're seeing here. Not my best blending work, but I was also using some of the shadows out of this palette that aren't the easiest to work with. I do really struggle when I try and use this Axis shade, but I love the shade. So that is the look that I created with the Subculture palette. A really recent look that I created came from my Melt Gemini palette, and I wanted to play around with yellows. So what I did was I used, I don't know how to pronounce that. I used this shade as well as this shade to kind of create that really grungy, kind of mustardy, look in the crease. And then I used the Going Bananas shade from Give Me Glow Cosmetics, which is this bright yellow metallic shade all over the lid. And then I just did a winged liner, and I actually really enjoyed the look that I created with this as well. For some reason I struggle with yellows, but I was actually really happy with the way that this look came out. And Melt Gemini is a palette that I just absolutely love because I love just the grungy aspect to this. I love the neutral brown, like neutrally grungy brown shades, but then I love the green portion of this palette as well. So I enjoyed the look that I was able to create with this. From the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette, I actually really enjoyed the look that I got with this one as well. This was a very cranberry-esque look, as you can tell. I feel like my lighting in these pictures is not the best, but I remember using Jasper, Clove, and a lot of Morgan in the crease to kind of create that base. And then all over the lid I used Azalea, which is a really stunning shade. I love this shade. That's really not a great swatch. That's not doing it justice. But I went with this all over the crease, and then I actually tapped on some of that pressed glitter from my Baby Got Peach palette very lightly. I don't know if you'll even be able to see it in this picture, but I loved the way that this look came out, and I absolutely adore my Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. I think this is such a beautiful palette, especially for the summertime. I know I'll be getting a ton of use out of this the last couple of months here before we head into the fall season, which is also a favorite of mine, but I definitely enjoyed the look that I created out of this palette. Okay, the next picture that I'm going to pop up on the screen is one that I created. So in the crease, I used Twig out of the Sultry palette, but then I just used single shadows from Gimme Glow Cosmetics on the lids. So I used Perry kind of in the center and towards the outer portion of my eye, and then on the inner portion, I used Pretty Little Lilac, and I really like the way this look turned out as well. I love playing around with like purples and lilacs, so that is kind of a look that I created more with my single shadows. One of my absolutely favorite looks of the entire like 3 months time that I was accumulating these pictures came from my Natasha Denona Mini Retro palette. I did a wing liner for this one as well, and I feel like the wing added a lot to the look, but I went in with Vintage Taupe, which is the like light pink matte shade. I went in with that in the crease, and I want to say I also used, with a very light hand, a little bit of that hot pink shade from the Pure Festival palette in the crease as well. And then I just went in with this blue shade in the shade Industrial all over the lid and did that winged liner, and I loved this one, you guys. This is one of my favorite palette pickups of the year thus far, and I don't know how many, I feel like I've tried quite a few palettes this year, but by far this is a standout, and it's only the 5 shades. It's a really little guy, but I have been super impressed with the mini retro from Natasha Denona. All right, you guys, next up a look that I really enjoyed but probably wasn't my best blending of life came from my Nabla Dreamy 2. I've mentioned this before, but I always feel inspired when I reach into this palette. So to create the look that you are seeing, I used Deja Vu as well as New Past in the crease and to deepen it up, and then I actually used from my Friendcation palette. I did use this bright blue shade on the center, but I also went in with the shade Mirabilia all over the lid before I tapped on that bright blue shade out of the Friendcation palette. And then I used purple, I think it was Purple Horseshoe out of the ABH Moonstone highlighter palette. That is how I got the look that you are seeing on the screen right now, and that was one of my faves too. Again, just playing around with purples and blues. Really had fun with purples and blues this past little bit here. Speaking of blues, another blue look that I created, I used the Persona Identity 2 palette. I went in with Loyal in the crease, deepened it up with Brave, put Independent all over the lid, and then I topped this off with the shade Good God from JD Glow Cosmetics, which is such a stunning shimmer shade and will really, really transform a look. And again, blending probably could have been improved on this look, but I really enjoyed the way that this one turned out. Okay, you guys, probably one of my biggest busts of the month. I was trying to create, I don't even know what I was trying to do, but I was using my Weekend Festival palette as well as my Sugar Pill Fun Size palette, and I went in with a hot pink from the Sugar Pill Fun Size, and then I didn't love the way that the hot pink came out, so then I went in with Dippy from the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette all over the lid. On the lower lash line, I used a purple out of the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette, and then in the inner corner, I did use this Ultimate shade, which is going in my Pan Those Shadows. So I was trying to get use out of it, but I just don't love the way that the blue, it was just too dark for the inner corner, and this was definitely a bust of a look, but I gotta share the busts along with the looks that I love, so that was a bummer. And I filmed a couple videos with that, and as I was editing, I was like, oh, I really don't love this look. Speaking of the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette, this has been this is another favorite of this year thus far. Another look that I created using this palette, I don't love the way that this one came out either. I don't know if it's the wings or again the dark inner corner, but I went in with Player One pretty much just in the crease all over the lid. You're seeing the purple there, and then I went in with High Score on the inner corner. I don't know what I was thinking, and then I also topped it with a shade out of the Neon Obsessions palette from Huda Beauty, the orange one, to try and fix it, which it didn't really fix it. So maybe more of another bust of a look, but I had fun doing something different. Next we have another look. Next we have a look out of my Melt Rust palette. This one I didn't love, and I think it's because of the way that my wings turned out. I've been practicing wings, and sometimes it turns out and sometimes it definitely doesn't. But overall, I do enjoy this palette. I probably could have done a little bit better job blending on this one too now that I look at it. But I went in with Rubbish and Rust in the crease and used Mar to deepen it up. And then I used Tarnish on the lid to create the look that you are seeing. I feel like this is going to be a really great palette for the fall time. I really like the quality of the mattes in this, and the shimmers are really nice. The only thing about the shimmers is they are a little bit thicker and a little bit chunky. Definitely do your eye makeup before doing your base makeup when using melt palettes. But I love the color story of this, and I am so excited to dip into this come the fall time. So not my favorite look that I created, but I think a big part of that is the wing situation with that look. You guys, another one of my absolutely favorite looks, I knew I wanted to use a shade out of the Melt Smoke Session. And honestly, I'm not sure what I used in my crease or in my outer V, but I know that I used both Sweet Tooth and Blue Dream on the lid, and I freaking love the way that this turned out. The shimmers in this palette are just like, Oh, they're so freaking good. I do not like the mattes in this, but they're dark matte shades, so I definitely struggled with the mattes in this palette, and I do feel like this is more of a complementary palette rather than like a standalone palette. I do like to pair this one with my Gemini palette. Freaking loved this look. All right, you guys, we are getting to the end, but another favorite look. You guys know I love my green shades. So from the Pat McGrath, I can't exactly remember what I used in my crease. I want to say I used the Natasha Denona Mini Star, but then all over the lid, I went in with a glitter glue base, and I even tapped a little bit of concealer on top to really make this shade pop, but I went in with this shade out of the Pat McGrath Bronze Seduction palette, and I love the way that this one turned out as well. This eye makeup I wore when we went to our favorite restaurant, went to a restaurant for the first time since everything like half started to reopen. I mean, we sat on a patio, which I don't mind at all, but I also have really good memories tied to this eye look, and I really enjoyed the way that this one turned out. All right, the next look, the next palette, I have two looks to share from the Huda Neon Obsessions palette. I actually really have fun playing around with this one in the summertime. I just think it's such a fun summer palette. The first look I'm going to share is one that I did very recently. I wore it in one of my palette week videos, but I used this shade right here as well as this shade right here to create the crease work in this, and then in the center of the lid I tried to do like a halo eye. I used the Peachy Keen single shadow from JD Glow Cosmetics, another really beautiful shade. And then I did the green lower lash line using a green out of the, where did I put it? I just put it away. I used the light green shade from the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette to create this sort of watermelon-esque summery look, and I actually enjoy the way this one turned out. I risked it again with the wings, but I really felt like this look called for a winged liner, so that's the first look I have to share. And then the second one is one that's really similar to the one that I shared with my Natasha Denona Sunrise palette, but I actually used the Soft Glam palette from ABH to create the base of this look, and then I really built up this shimmery shade on the lid. That's where you're seeing like the pink come in, and then I used this like neon yellow shade in the inner corner, and I really enjoyed the look that I created, partially using this but also partially using the Soft Glam. Like I said, this one's a really fun one to play around in the summertime, so that's why I created two looks with this one. Okay, I went back to grab my Sugar Pill Fun Size because I have another look to share with you guys for this one, and this is another one that was like a true favorite. As you can tell, I really have been enjoying this Sugar Pill Fun Size. So for this, again, blue/purple look that you're seeing, I went in with 8-Bit and Player One to create the like blue-purple crease, and then I used the shade Good God from JD Glow Cosmetics all over the lid. It's just such a stunning shade. I think it's sold out on their website right now, but if that shade comes back, I just highly recommend that single shadow from JD Glow Cosmetics. I love the way that this look turned out. Seriously, one of my favorites that I did, and again, I've just been having so much fun with blues and purples. Next up is a really easy look that I created. This is one that I would be comfortable wearing to work, and it's from my Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. This palette has gotten so much love for me. So what I do to create the look that I'm sharing right now is I used this in the crease, I used the dark matte brown to deepen it up, and then I just went in with the olive green shade all over the lid, and I really like the way that this turned out. It's such an easy go-to look. It's not hard to create. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it's a go-to for days that I'm rushing to work too. So definitely a go-to look from the Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. And then the last look I have to share with you guys actually comes from my ColourPop Perception palette, which I have decided to declutter. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, why did I declutter that? I actually really like this. So I don't have the palette to show you, and I think this palette is no longer available as well, but the star of the show for this one was the blue-brown shade out of that Natasha Denona palette, or out of that ColourPop palette. In fact, I did pop that shade out and put it in a Z palette, and then I used the Alchemist, the Kat Von D Alchemist like blue sapphire shade on the inner corner, which I really feel like helped make it pop. And then I went in with a cool tone brown and a darker purple to create the crease work here. And I really enjoyed the way this one turned out as well. It was just those blues and purples that I was really enjoying this past couple of months. I will be really interested to see like the direction my eyeshadow looks go the next couple of months. It wasn't like in March I was like, oh, I'm really going to focus on creating blue and purple looks. It's just every day I sat down to do my makeup and pulled things out. I was like, this is what I feel like creating today. So I definitely had fun creating the looks that I shared with you guys today. If you guys have any color combinations, any recommendations, or any palettes that you would really like to see me use, leave them for me down below. Let me know what color stories were creatively inspiring you over the course of the last couple months. I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around for another palette week. I hope that you enjoyed it. Tomorrow's video is going to be my Partners in Cream update because that is going to be going up just a little bit late. Palette week cut into it. But anyway, thanks so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel as you always do, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye.